Hello, I'm making a video about Kaplan's film, and I'm gonna do this while I watch it at double speed so that I remember all of the parts of it while I'm talking about it. I'm trying to be sensitive to the fact that this isn't a film class, so a lot of the language, maybe I'm just gonna be giving you while I watch it. And if it's useful for you, great, and if not, no problem. I'm going to ask you to start by paying attention to, in the beginning, the fact that we get a lot of water imagery and that Christina Ricci's character, Red, is what we normally call her, looking in the water and looking at herself, which is a way of, let me just make sure this is doing what I wanted to, and it wasn't. Okay. Asking us to think about her as a reflected character. And then it goes under the water to look at her again, to show us as, again, a reflected character. Okay. We then see her walking through the woods. And while she walks through the woods, she comes across this wolf who is dancing. And the dance is gorgeous. It's actually a dance that was choreographed for a piece I can no longer remember, but it was choreographed for a song that was about a fawn. And the wolf who's dancing here, we might notice, is relatively androgynous, and he doesn't seem particularly threatening while we watch him. It's also the case that she's watching him, not the other way around. And then he does seem not so much to threaten her, but at least to ask her these questions about where she's going. And she's going to her grandmother's house, yeah. The voiceover is provided by Quentin Crisp, who's a well-known gay man before it was cool to be a gay guy. And people have read this piece as an example of a queer text. He gets to the grandmother's house before she does, and the grandmother's house is a perfect recreation of German expressionism, which is to say that what we see on screen, like the set, is really weird. Is another way to say it. There's lots of shadows, there's lots of weird angles, and he uses this instability when he is in the house to mirror the instability that we are watching when he assaults the grandma, right? So his assault is sort of mirrored by the assault on us visually. And then he cooks her body, of course, and then Red shows up. And Red enters this German expressionist cottage, and doesn't seem thrown by the mise en scène, the architecture, the way things look on screen. She eats part of her grandma, and the cat actually says this is the only instance of diegetic language. The cat says something like, people who eat their grandmas are slutty. She's not thrown, no problem. Okay. And then we get the wolf asking her to take off her clothes, and she does it in this way that's super sexy, actually. And it's the wolf who seems to be sort of out of his element, doesn't quite know what to do. And we read Christina Ricci, Red, as this sort of childish character. Her feet show up as this kind of fetish object, and she climbs into bed with the wolf. And again, it's the wolf who seems caught off guard. Christina Ricci's character, Red, seems to be the one in charge here, which is sexually kind of crazy. And then there's this moment where she's like, I have to go, I have to, I want to say use the restroom, but obviously she means the forest. And the wolf tries to trap her with this rope on her leg, but she's too clever for him. So she wraps it around a tree, and then she escapes in this way that he sets about to discover. So once he's discovered that she's run away, we realize she hasn't quite run away, right? She's still watching him. She's watching the wolf. I'm saying him because it's a him, but it's also still androgynous, actually, especially considering that the wolf is wearing women's clothes when he's in the cottage. So he's bereft. She's watching him, and while watching him, she's eating a piece of fruit. And there's this very Eve in the Garden of Eden type of reading that we might give here, that she's opened up to some sort of sexual or lascivious nature while she's reading, which means we're sort of reading against any traditional Little Red Riding Hood story, probably, that we know. And again, she's watching him. It's not her, it's not, forgive me, him watching her, but she's the voyeur, maybe. And then he starts chasing her and she's running away. But at the end, we get this weird moment where it looks like she's gotten away, but then it looks also like she's inviting him into this sort of sexual relationship. A lot of this is going to turn up later when we start talking about Laura Mulvey as an example, or a counterexample rather, of how films typically work. But it's a great example of how a psychoanalytic or a film might be read as a psychoanalytic example of us sort of thinking about our deeper desires and what's meant by looking at or feeling desire. All right, so we can talk about this on Friday, we will. And then next week, we're going to go into the psychoanalytic aspect. All you need to do for Friday is watch the film and be ready to talk about it as a really weird movie that I made you watch. Okay.